Well, hello and good evening everyone, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone along here this night to the Benarty Centre. Moving on to our third speaker this evening is Ivan McKee. Ivan has worked in manufacturing for over 30 years, and 8 years ago he launched his own manufacturing consultancy and turnaround company. His work has taken him across the globe, and his global experience has shaped his perspective on independence and has shown him how dynamic, responsive and successful smaller countries can be. Ivan believes the UK policy is focused too heavily on the City of London and often ignores the prospects of manufacturing business as a consequence. Thank you. I'll put you over to Ivan McKee.
Thanks very much. And thanks for coming out tonight. It's a horrible night when I was driving over here. I couldn't see any of the lovely scenery. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the economic case for independence, and it's not too heavy. There's some numbers, but there's not too many. Hopefully, I have to get the point over. But before I do that, I just want to talk a wee bit about my journey to Yes, why I'm here. As Diane said, I started off working in manufacturing. I worked for a lot of big companies and smaller companies over the years. 8 or 9 years ago, I started off doing my own business, first of all in my own consultancy, and built up over the years, and now I've got manufacturing factories in Scotland, England and Eastern Europe. And when the referendum came along a couple of years ago, I had been involved in politics, and I had a look at it and thought I'd better try and understand what this is all about and how it's going to affect me, my businesses, etc. So what I did was I went and looked at it as if it was a business I was looking at. If Scotland was a business, is it something you want to invest in? Is it something you want to buy? Or was it a bit of a basket case and you wouldn't want to touch it with a barge pole? So I looked at it as if I was analysing a business, and I went and dug out all the numbers and spreadsheets and spent a bit of time going through them and looking at it, and ignored all the political spin. And what I found surprised me, because probably like you, I'd been led to believe over the years that Scotland was subsidised or too poor to do anything, we couldn't afford this or that, and we had to get money from England to keep us going. And it's quite the opposite, and I'll talk you through one or two of the things that I discovered. So then after that I went along to a meeting. Business for Scotland was getting set up about 1.5 years ago, and I went along and kind of remember put my hand up to volunteer for something and put my toe in the water, and before long I was in the swimming with the sharks, so it's been great fun. So okay, let's get to the nub of this. This is a rich country. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you look at the total amount of tax that's generated in Scotland compared to the average in the UK, that's the numbers, and that's been back over the last 5 years. So in every one of those years, Scotland generated more tax. When we talk about tax, it's everything. It's income tax, VAT, national insurance, corporation tax, the whole lot, alcohol duty, road tax, the whole lot added together, divided by the population. And in every one of those years, Scotland generated more tax than the UK average, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a lot more. So the 5-year average, we've generated about £10,000 per person, and the UK is less than 9,000. So we generate more tax than the UK average. More money comes into the Scottish economy that way. And last 5 years wasn't a one-off. If you look back to 1980, the first data was put together, and that's a chart for it. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's 2 lines there for each year. The darker line, the higher line, is the tax take per person in Scotland, and the lower line is the UK average. So in every one of those years, Scotland generated more tax per person. Some years a bit more, and in other years like the early 80s, and recently in the last 5 years or so, a lot more. So there's a lot more money coming into the Scottish economy than people would have you believe. If you look at gross domestic product or national income, which is another way of measuring the total amount of activity, it's not just the tax we generate, it's the total amount of economic activity in the country. And this is how countries' relative wealth is measured internationally. Scotland's GDP per person, 11% higher than the UK average last year, 18% higher the year before, and if you go back in time it's higher. Again, every one of the years going back 30 years or more. In actual fact, when you exclude the North Sea oil from that, Scotland's GDP is about the same as the UK average. So even without oil, it's we're as wealthy as the rest of the UK. With the oil, we're quite a bit more wealthy. And the question then is, what do you want to do with that oil revenue? We're probably halfway through the total oil revenue that's going to come from the North Sea, assuming we don't find any more in the Atlantic or the Clyde Basin, where there's suspected to be more. But even what we know about at the moment, we're halfway through in value terms. The first half of that bonanza has obviously been wasted by Thatcher and the following governments, and I think it's up to us to take control of the second half and spend it for the benefit of the people of Scotland. So that's gross domestic product. You put that into the league table. Scotland, last year's numbers comes out at number 14 in the world, richest country, the UK at number 18. And again, it's the same every year. Scotland's higher up that league table than the rest of than the UK is. And it's interesting if you look at the countries that are in that top table. So these are the richest industrialised countries in the world. Scotland's just outside that top 9 or top 10, as I said. But it's interesting who they are. It's Luxembourg, Norway, Switzerland, Netherlands, Ireland, Austria, Sweden. So they're all small, medium-sized, independent, North or West European countries like Scotland. Most of them have got far less natural resources than we have. It just shows you where we should be, what we're missing out on as not being an independent country. The two countries in there that aren't in that category, the United States and Australia, obviously two rich countries with a lot of natural resources. And another thing they've both got in common, of course, is that they both used to be ruled by London, but aren't anymore. So they've done all right since they went on their own. And there's a reason why small countries do well, because if you've ever worked for a big company, you know what it's like getting decisions made. It's a nightmare, bureaucracy, all kinds of layers of management getting in the way. It's really difficult to get anything done. The most successful, really big companies have divided their business up into lots of small companies and just let them go on and run their own thing. It's the same with countries. If you've got a big country, it's bureaucratic. Democracy doesn't work very well because managing to communicate with the politicians is difficult. Small countries, the democracy works better, people can have their voices heard. They're much better at taking advantage of opportunities, be it natural resources or technology or whatever, and they're much better at dealing with problems when they come along. And you look at the way the small countries have bounced back from the downturn compared to the bigger countries, the UK included, which has got one of the biggest debts in the world and is making a very bad job of managing that. So if you look at, I'm going to take my word for it, Standard & Poor's, the ratings agency, put a report together earlier this year, and that was all about if Scotland was an independent country, how would they rate it? And they're one of the 3 or 4 international agencies that rate countries, and that determines how much they can borrow money for and how their economy is viewed by the international money markets. So they're quite comfortable. The Scottish economy rich and relatively diversified, and apart from oil we've got a lot of very strong sectors, and you shouldn't forget that. And they said even excluding the North Sea and looking at just the onshore income, Scotland would qualify for their highest economic assessment. So they don't see any problem with Scotland as a successful and relatively well-off independent country. And if you look back just over the last 5 years, and you look at if Scotland got out the same percentage of spend from Westminster as we put in taxes, we would have been £8.5 billion better off over those 5 years. So it's £1,600 per person. Now, you'd have decided what to do with that money. You probably wouldn't have done what the UK's government's done with it and run up huge debt. You'd maybe have ran a smaller debt, but you use some of the money for that and use the other money for investment and the infrastructure of the country, which is badly needed. When you look at the amount of money that's spent in London, the South East, high-speed trains, and Crossrail, and motorway systems, etc., compared to what was spent up here, you'll see the difference. And the infrastructure spend obviously drives economic activity. Companies come and relocate, people come and work, where there's good connections, and that's important. So that's enough of the numbers. I'm going to show you some maps now, some charts that explain a wee bit about how the wealth in the UK is, where it comes from and where it ends up. I don't know if you can see that at the back. The first one is about, it's from Eurostat, European, we put this together for the whole of Europe, and they look at every country and the parts of that country in terms of the amount of GDP or economic activity they generate, the national income, if you like. And basically, the darker the colour, the more, the stronger the economy is in that part of the country, the more it's generating, and the more wealth it's generating. So if you look at the UK, obviously the City of London gets a lot of activity. South of England along the M4 corridor and down the south coast, there's a lot of wealth generated there. Round about the Manchester area, north east of Scotland, and a bit down across the central belt. That's where the UK's wealth gets generated in terms of GDP per person. So the next chart is from the UK Government Office of National Statistics, and that's about the number of households that have got, it's just under £1 million in wealth, okay? And that wealth includes your house, your share, pension, whatever you've got, savings, whatever. So the south of England, more than 13% of households have got that amount of wealth. And the further north you go, it's less and less, and you get to Scotland, it's less than 7% when you look at Scotland as a whole. So you kind of jump back and forward, that's where the money comes from, and that's where it ends up. So that kind of answers the paradox of when you look at the data and it says Scotland's a wealthy country when you look at the numbers, but when you go around the place, it doesn't look like a wealthy country. It's kind of obvious, the money gets sent down in taxes. 93% of the tax rates in Scotland get sent down to Westminster, be it HMRC or whatever. Then they decide how much of that's coming back through the Barnett formula, etc. And I've shown you the numbers that there's over the years there's less coming back than is getting sent down. Yeah, and that kind of surprised me, but the data's all there and it's kind of quite black and white when you look at it. The next chart kind of takes a step further. I mean, money isn't everything, but this is everything. This is male average life expectancy by part of the country. And again, the darker the area, the lower the life expectancy. So if you look at the very dark areas, Glasgow and the Western Isles, interestingly, 70 to 74 is average male life expectancy. Some parts of Glasgow it's a lot less than that actually. And again, further south you go, the higher life expectancy. There's 3 dark green dots on there where their life expectancy is more than 82 years. You can't see those because they're so small, but you can maybe guess where they are. It's Chelsea, Kensington and Westminster. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. I mean, the more money you got, the longer you live, and on average, it's you've got a better lifestyle and you can look after yourself better. So that's quite a stark indication of the wealth inequality that exists. Now I live in Glasgow, but I've got a plan. I'm going to move when I'm 69. So okay. So just to summarise that. Too poor. Aye, right. So, don't let them tell you otherwise. So the next part's about why is it, if that's the case, and the numbers all show that you get so many people coming on the television to tell you that we've got a problem, pensions, we couldn't afford pensions, we couldn't afford welfare, we couldn't afford the NHS, we couldn't afford anything if we were independent. And it's sad to say, but the reality is most of it's self-interest. If you're a Westminster MP, well, people often ask me what employment prospects would be like in an independent Scotland and would people lose their jobs at independence, and I say, well yeah, there's going to be 59 people are going to lose their jobs at independence. It's going to be the 59 MPs in Scotland sends down to Westminster. And you think about it, if you've worked your whole career up the greasy pole and you get to a position where you're an MP for a safe seat, and then this independence palaver comes along, and at one fell swoop your career path for the rest of your life, and then potentially your seat in the House of Lords is all going to disappear at the one point, and clearly you've got to be very determined to try and prevent that happening. And that's the reality of a lot of the things that a lot of the people that are coming forward to make the case for that. And there's a nice wee quote that kind of summarises that. It's hard to get somebody to understand something when their salary depends on them not understanding it. So, there's a lot of scare stories going about, and a lot of this isn't new. People remember back to 1979. I can just about remember it. Some people in here will remember it very well. Other people will have no idea what this old guy's talking about. But 1979 was the first opportunity we had to vote for a Scottish Assembly or Parliament. Now, more people voted for it than didn't vote for it, but because of the way the rules were set up, it didn't actually happen. And this was the Daily Express in February, the month before the vote, putting out the scare story about all the horrible things that would happen to Scotland if we voted for an Assembly. And if you look through that list, again, anybody that knows that's been around for a while or knows the history understands. I mean, that was the basis of Scottish industry at that time. And of course, every one of those was destroyed mostly through the 1980s after the Assembly wasn't set up. So there's a history of scare stories, people telling us bad things that are going to happen if we dare to vote yes. In the 1990s, Standard Life and Scottish Widows both came out and publicly said they would leave Scotland if there was a vote for devolution, as they've just done about independence, and they're both still here. So you've really got to take that stuff with a pinch of salt. So fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. So this is the third time we've been through it, so let's not get shame ourselves. Let's take this opportunity. So I'm going to finish up with a wee story which kind of puts into context the opportunity that we're sitting on here in Scotland. A lot of people don't realise it, and I was surprised when I sat down and thought about it, how big an opportunity we've actually got here. So this is about the Prime Minister of Norway, who's out for a walk one day along the fjord, as you do, and he comes across the magic lamp and he picks it up and gives it a rub, and the genie pops out. And the genie says to him, "I'll give you some wishes to make Norway a better country." And the Prime Minister says, "Well, that's difficult. I mean, we're just about the richest country in the world. They measure these things and they tell us we're just about the happiest country in the world. Everybody's got a good standard of living. Lots of leisure time. They can afford to go and enjoy themselves with their leisure time. The health pretty good. I can't think of anything that would really make it a better place." And the genie says, "Well, you need to think of something." So he says, "Well, okay, I've got a few." He said, "We've got an economy which is based on oil, fisheries, and one or two other things, but it's fairly narrow. It'd be good to have some other stuff that we could rely on into the future. We've got a national drink called aquavit that nobody's ever heard of. We like it, but nobody else knows what it is. It'd be great if that was a world famous brand and everybody from Singapore or Chicago would pay stupid money to take off our hands, and we couldn't make enough of the stuff, and you're the only people that could make it. That would be a good industry to have." He says, "Yeah, well, we can do that for you." He said, "We've got a problem with the language. We speak Norwegian. Nobody else speaks Norwegian. If we want to go and do business or go on holiday, we've got to learn another language. It'd be great if Norwegian was the world business language, and if we got off a plane in Tokyo or Brazil and we wanted to do business, everybody would speak to us in Norwegian. If we went on holiday, we didn't get to learn another language. That would make things a bit easier." He says, we can do that. He said, "We've got a lovely country, but it's really big. There's mountains everywhere, the infrastructure's really tough, it's expensive to build roads and railways to get from one end to the other. The weather's horrible in the winter, it's minus 35 for 3 months and we've got snow ploughs out. It'd be great with the same natural resources, the same population in a country a quarter the size, and a nice climate that didn't get too cold in the winter. That'd be good." He says, "Yeah, we can manage that as well." He said, "We've got a problem to get to our markets. When we've got our big markets in Central Europe, we have to go through 2 other countries to get there. It's a bit of a nightmare and a bit of a trek. It'd be great with another country with 60 million people just shoved on a southern border with a big world city there of 10 million people that all wanted to, they all spoke Norwegian, they all wanted to buy our drink and buy our energy and everything, our fisheries and food. And we wouldn't want to be controlled by them, you understand, we just want to be able to do business with them." And he says, "Yeah, we can do that as well." He said it'd be great if we had a diaspora of tens of millions of people that had come from Norway over the generations and all the world's top economies that wanted us to succeed and wanted to help us. And it'd be great if we had 4 of the top 200 universities in the world. It'd be great if we had an industrial heritage going back 200 years, and our engineers are famous for all the things they'd invented, and given respect for all of that. It'd be great if our national brand was stronger, so people would know who we were and would come and visit and boost our tourism industry. It'd be great if our national poet was celebrated in Russia and America every year. It'd be great if our national dress was instantly recognisable. And the whole point, of course, as you go through it, and the No campaign likes to tell us that we're daft for thinking that we could ever be as rich as Norway. In 1970, Norway was poorer than Scotland. And when you actually sit down and look at it, it's quite remarkable the number of advantages this country's got. And this could be one of the best, richest countries in the world. If we play our cards right, all the ingredients are there, the resources are there, the people are there. If you sit down with a blank bit of paper and wrote down what an ideal country would look like, it ends up something pretty close to Scotland. And it's really all about us just taking the opportunity in September, taking all the ingredients, putting it together, making it happen, and the future's there for us to grab it. Thanks very much.